Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of ADHD and Crochet. As you can see here, I've got a few things we're going to work on today. The first one we're going to work on is the octopus that we kind of finished sewing last week, but we are going to put him in this little scallop shell today. So as you can see, I've already glued the two pieces of the shell together. It's kind of messy, but he's going to be covering it. So, check my glue gun there. Looks like it is ready to go. Had to turn that on before I got all set up. Preparation is key here. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of position him how I want him, figure out exactly how I want him to appear in the shell, which side I want to be the bottom. I think I want this to be the bottom. So the cool thing about this project is you have a lot of creative liberties with it. Octopi naturally, especially the smaller ones, do get into these shells for protection of themselves. So there's not really a wrong way of doing this. So we're just going to put a bunch of glue on there. We'll just kind of press them into it. Now, while I understand this is a clamshell, part of my little project, looking back at these little oyster ones here, I do have little pearls. So we're going to continue with that trend. I know this is scallops and not oysters, but we're going to do it anyway. Put a little more glue in there. And now that we've got the body in the correct spot, we're just going to add some more glue and put the arms of the octopus where we want them. This one is a little bit different from the other videos, but we will do some actual sewing here as well. And you just kind of play around with it. The octopus arms of this pattern naturally want to kind of curl and do some fun things. That makes things a little bit easier. And I think we'll put our little faux pearl, our little marble here, right there in the front. I'll go ahead and make a nice little blob for that to sit on. It's okay if it's seen. If it really bothers me, you just do that as well. It looks like he's guarding it a little bit. Clearly it bothered me enough. Then we're going to place the other arms here. And because I can, I think I'm going to angle this arm so it's going above him as well, to give him a little more depth, a little more personality. And I'm just going to use the hot glue. The material I use to make him holds its shape well enough that I don't have to starch anything or do anything weird like that. It'll just do what I want it to. Now this one I kind of liked how it ended up over here. So I'm just going to glue that in place. A little bit of glue there. Hold it down. Now you can make this so that it has all the arms kind of out like this. Or you can have it so that they're pinned in place all over the place. But I'm going to do a mixture. So we'll leave some out. And we'll have some curling back in. I think this one I'm going to glue on the underside of the shell a little bit. Kind of have it sitting like that. And we'll do the same with this one here. Put a little dab of glue, press it down, remove any extra strings that we don't want. And now we've got our little octopus hanging out. And you can go through, remove any strings you don't want to show. Cool thing about hot glue is it just kind of peels off. Sometimes it peels off a little easier. There we go. Than other times. And then just kind of make sure that everything's where you want it to be. And I think we're done. He looks good to me. He will be available for purchase after this video has been posted. He will be on my Instagram along with these little guys. Alright, now I did make another octopus with different eyes. Instead of using beads, I used glass eyes that are a little more realistic looking. This one is going to be part of a bigger project, but he's not quite finished yet. We're going to go ahead and got to turn my glue gun off before I waste the battery on it. So for this guy, we just got to sew the bottom on him and then he'll be ready to go for that bigger project. So you will probably see him again before he's available for purchase, but I do sell and make just the little octopi as well, in whatever color. The cephalopods can be any color they want. Some fun things I've learned about these creatures is that they will, while generally they are loners, they will team up with fish, like sea trout and the like, and hunt together. So the trout will try to catch a fish. The fish will hide in a hole that the trout can't get in. And then the trout will kind of point or nod at the fish in the hole and change its colors to signal for the octopus to come and assist. Sometimes the octopus gets the fish, sometimes the trout gets the fish. It's a cool little thing they've got going on. And it's because of this relationship that scientists think has caused some octopus to seemingly randomly punch fish, which is a really entertaining thing to watch. They think it's either out of spite or to remind the fish to not get too ahead of itself, make sure that the octopus gets some food too, since they are helping each other. But I just think these creatures are very entertaining, very funny, and they are extremely intelligent. I once read a story that it's probably not true, but it also seems in character enough for an octopus to have happened, where it was an octopus in an aquarium. The keeper, or whatever they're called, had gone and given it some shrimp, and I guess one of the shrimp ended up being bad, so the octopus escaped its enclosure, went and found the keeper, and threw the bad shrimp at them. Again, probably not true, but I like to pretend it is because it's funny. And sometimes that's what life is about. Pretending that some of the funny things are real, or hoping that they're real just because they're entertaining. And that's okay. Everybody needs their little escape. Mine just happened to be octopus related. Again, I did not make any of these patterns, at least not on my own. So I will put them in the description below this video. One of the things we'll be working on today, I actually had some trouble reading the pattern, so I just followed what I could and then used the rest as inspiration for the rest of the piece. But I'll talk about that more when I get to it. Now, all of these are relatively small things. Aside from the big octopus in the scallop, everything else I'll be working on today is going to be part of a larger project, but I will have available for purchase as well. I can make additional ones to be purchased if anybody wants them. So I will have those listed. And since this little guy is going to be part of a bigger project, this extra string over here is going to be left on him, since I will be using it for that other project. But this little inner string, we don't need it anymore, so we're going to weave it in, hide it, snip, snip. Put that over there. And we have our little mini octopus here. Whenever I use these more realistic eyes, they always look so angry. And I think that's part of their charm. All right. The next one we're going to work on is our little sea slug here. He has 3 parts that need to be sewn on. We've got his little antenna thing and then his bottom decoration. I don't know what that's called. He also is going to have this extra string here. Again, he's going to be used for a larger project, but I will have him available for purchase as well. This was a really fun pattern to make. I have a few patterns from this creator. I really like them. One of the patterns I have is just a big snail, a giant snail. So I might do that at some point. I just love the detail included on it. Now this has a specific name. The pattern set I got this in was a package of a few of them. And I believe these are called nudibranches. I'm probably saying it wrong, but that's what it looks like. And I think Panzer is someplace he's not supposed to be. But that's okay, I'll get him later. As long as nothing breaks. Sometimes these smaller things are harder to see on camera. I tend to keep these, while working on them, a little closer to my face. I'm doing my best to keep this where you guys can see it. Now we've got one of the eye stalks on. Maybe. Panzer had gotten himself in the closet and needed some help getting out. He's no longer where he shouldn't be, so we can continue this. So we'll snip that one off. Reposition this one where I wanted it. And thread our needle. So you might be wondering if this needle is a sharp needle due to its size. It is not. It is another embroidery, or not embroidery, tapestry needle, where it is very dull. It's very rounded. It won't hurt you unless you like really put some force behind it. It is just tiny, which is perfect for the project I'm working on, which is also quite small. I don't know how true it is. I have not put a whole lot of research into it, but apparently sea slugs may or may not start out similarly to sea snails, where they have a shell at some point in early life and then lose it later. Again, I don't know how true that is. The internet is an interesting place to be, and I just happen to watch videos. So I'll have to fact check that one later. Maybe the next time I make one of these, because there's a few of the in this pack. There's 4 in this pack of patterns that I want to make all of them at some point. But I am bouncing between about 4, 5 different patterns at a time. Alright, so now that we've got both eye stalks on, or antennae, I'm not really sure what they are. Slug anatomy eludes me. Let's just move the ridge out of the way. And there we go. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but I tend to like doing more realistic patterns. I like all the detail in them. I think it's fun. It's a nice challenge for myself. And it really works with my ADHD. It allows me to get a little creative, have some creative liberties with it. I like having more details. I like the accuracy of certain things. And we are at almost the halfway point, and my microphone has not cut out yet, so I think we are good. I was a little more prepared this time around. I learned from last time. And that's kind of the important thing of life. Live and learn. Learn from your mistakes, how we get better at things. Life in a whole is a learning process. It's important to remember not to be too hard on yourself while learning. All right. So we've got that little bit done. We can snip this off. Now, the last thing I'm going to do with this one is I'm just going to move where this string is. Just because I'm not going to be sewing directly where it's at. We're just going to hide it in this bottom ridge of the foot here and move it kind of more off to the side, to the lower side, because as you can see, he's kind of twisted, literally. And I'm going to go just a little bit further down with it. That way I can just take a picture of him while hiding that string. A little secret there. And then when I actually go to sew him onto the thing, I don't have to worry about having visible stitches up here. But that is our little sea slug complete. And now we're going to work on our sea star. This is the one that I actually had some trouble reading the pattern on. I'll still include where to find it because I did not completely do this one on my own. I did take inspiration from what I could understand and then expanded on that with my own knowledge of how projects and patterns work. And I think he turned out pretty okay. So we are going to go ahead and start the sewing. We got to go all the way around because I gave him a top and a bottom so that he could be stuffed and positioned properly. Don't take that out of context, please. As you can see, there's quite a few pins keeping him together currently. So I'm probably going to keep that open. I may regret that later because cats are cats, and if you do something, they will ruin it. I love them dearly, but they are toddlers, more agile toddlers. This string is so loud or so long, it likes to get stuck on everything. So I may have to take a couple minutes here and there to untangle it from something or itself, as string likes to do. Now this project makes use of almost every stitch I know. Does single crochet, slip stitch, double crochet, half double crochet, and treble crochet. So it does them all. It was kind of fun to make once I got into it and just kind of gave up on the pattern, trying to figure out that pattern. It was definitely an interesting challenge for me. But so far, I like how he turned out. I like how he curves naturally. I purposely made the bottom a little bit smaller in the arm area than the top, just so that the little tips of the arms here would have a little more curve and freedom to be moved around. A little thinner. Makes it a little bit more realistic. Here's one of those knots. Hands are going to be kind of in the way here. They probably have been the whole time. Maybe we can use our little sewing needle. There we go. Sometimes you have to loosen it so you can tug it apart. And then we proceed to get tangled around everything else. Alright, this one is trying to stab me, so it's going to go away now. I believe pretty much every pattern that I have displayed here, every project I found on Etsy. You can do the same. If I find that any of them were not found on Etsy, I will put their creator and where to find them on the description of this video. But I believe this one was also found on Etsy. I know the octopus, the sea slug, and then the coral we're going to do after this were all found on Etsy. I just can't remember if this one was or not. I feel like it was. That's usually where I go. There we go. These stars are also interesting. At the tip of each arm is a little eye that allows them to see. And the way they see things is very different. The way they eat things is also very unique and also kind of gross. They bring their stomach from the inside of their body to the outside of their body and then just start eating whatever they're trying to eat. They just start digesting it that way. You can't really see that part very well, thankfully, in nature, because they do cover whatever they're trying to eat with their own body, because as you might imagine, an internal organ being on the outside makes it relatively vulnerable. So they use the rest of their body to cover that. They also, some species have a very unique thing where they can make themselves rigid or soft. So they can be squishy and get into a little tight crevice and then make themselves rigid enough that they can't be easily removed from that spot. They also have these little like tubes on the bottom of each arm that allow them to walk and grip onto things. And there's like thousands of them. It's also kind of interesting because sometimes some species can just drop an arm, like how a lizard, when caught or startled, may drop its tail to distract a predator. Sea stars can do that. Some of them will do that or just split in half, and then you have two starfish. So they can regrow their arms, and some species can regrow an entire body. It's also interesting because the arms are still kind of alive when they drop them, even if they aren't going to grow the body from the arm that is detached. And so the arm will keep trying to grab at food and pass it to a mouth that does not exist anymore because it's not attached to the main starfish. I don't know why science fiction chooses humanoid aliens when we have starfish and cronids, or whatever they're called, that are starfish and coral adjacent. But the ocean is much scarier and much weirder. And the more I learn about the ocean, the more I'm starting to think that We're trying to leave the Earth because of the ocean. And that's why we have so much space. The official reasoning is that it's harder to get down deeper into the ocean because of atmospheric pressure and all that other science junk that makes it more difficult to observe things that are deep in the ocean. But I think they saw something and just got scared, and so they're just trying to get out. But they claim it's because we can't just point a telescope at the ocean, because the ocean is murky and dark. Well, I guess space is kind of dark too, but it's murky. There's particles that get in the way. In my house, the morning is tea time. I find it difficult to drink coffee. I feel that it is too much caffeine for my body to handle. It just makes me jittery and anxious. But a nice cup of green tea, just enough caffeine to get me going. Oh, there's another knot. We've been doing pretty good. We've only had one of these? This one wants to be more difficult though. Sometimes you can see where it's supposed to go, how it happened, which makes it easier to undo. But not always. Sometimes it's more difficult. Sometimes you have to let your string untwist a little so that it calms down and stops doing that. But we're about halfway through the sea star, a little more than halfway. I couldn't tell you what species of sea star this is. I just kind of picked a color and picked a shape and went for it. And yes, there are a lot of different species of sea star. And they all look very different and all have very different properties. I don't know why people need AI to be creative when nature is weird in its own way. There are some animals out there that I swear look like AI, but they're real. There's a type of deep sea octopus that's mostly clear. Just looks like floating glass, but it's real. I think it's actually called a glass octopus, oddly enough. Marine biologists are very creative sometimes. I think one of my projects that I want to try and do eventually is a vampire squid, which sounds terrifying and they look a little creepy and scary, but they're actually harmless to people, actually, because they are filter feeders, which is very strange for a squid. Usually squid are hunters, like the Humboldt squid, which is a terrifying squid to encounter because it will hunt you. And there's 100 of them that you can't see. The ocean is scary sometimes. So if you're already afraid of the ocean, I'm sorry. my fun facts are just going to make it worse. If you're not, congratulations, you have a new fear unlocked. And again, I'm sorry. I find nature fascinating and fun. Even the scary facts don't really scare me that much. I think they're cool and neat because it's always an adaptation to survive in their environment. But sometimes that adaptation is scary to people because we don't have to have those adaptations in our comfy homes. Now, I put this little pillow up here hoping that a cat would lay on it, and as you might expect, the cat ignored me. I keep trying to get my calico, Pipsqueak, to be involved, but whenever I bring her in here on purpose, she runs away like she's in trouble, and I don't know why. Calicos are just weird. So today it doesn't seem like we'll have too many cats involved because I apparently just have to keep something up here for them to be welcomed, and then they'll leave me alone. How nice of them, right? Alright, we are almost done with our sea star here. We just have to get around this arm. And then our sea star is done. I won't be snipping the string off this one again because this is going to be part of a larger project, so I do need something to sew it onto that with. You can comment down below what you think this project is going to be. If you are part of my inner circle and watching this, if you want to give it away, you can. It's probably going to be several weeks before I have all the parts done, but I do plan to sew that project together on one of these videos. So that'll be fun. I think we are at the end here. I'm going to give it a couple of tugs just to make sure there's no little holes anywhere. So we are done, so we're going to make our little knot. And we're not going to hide or snip this one this time. We're going to leave it just like that. We have our little sea star. Now we have this little weird segment here. This is honeycomb coral. Now, I don't have a lot of facts about honeycomb coral specifically, but I do have some fun facts about coral in general. Coral is actually several organisms lumped together and growing together. They're essentially like little clones, all building on each other and growing together, which I think is pretty cool. Now, I did end up sewing a few of these together, like 4 pieces. I think I have like 12 here. I do have a few more that I want to add on to it as well and make it a little bit bigger. I've got those in progress, but there's a lot of strings already, as you can see here, that I am kind of untangling that I kind of want to get rid of. They're bothering me. So we are going to work on that currently. And at this point in the video, it's also an excuse for me to get this back up to an hour. instead of having a 45-minute video, which I could. It's my content, I can do what I want, but I want to give you guys an hour of content. Again, this is intended to be just something you put on in the background and enjoy. Hopefully you enjoy it. Just some background noise while you do whatever you feel like. Due to the nature of this piece, I will probably keep it on the table as flat as possible. And as you can see, there's quite a few little pins in here, keeping all the parts together in the formation that I want them to be in. My strings are probably going to get very attached to everything. Like this over here. This is definitely one of my messier ones just because there are so many parts. But that's okay. I try so hard, and it still gets stuck on a pin. That's okay. Gotta gently move things around. There's different types of corals, obviously. Usually they're classified as soft corals or stony corals. I'm not sure what honeycomb is. I think honeycomb coral is considered a stony coral. Hi, Snickers. Did you want to come say hi? Did you want to come up here? I'm going to pick her up. The old lady. Snickers is, I want to say, close to like 16 years old. She's my sweetheart. She's old. Sometimes she can be a little cranky, but she's a good cat. And now she's going to lick me until I bleed. Because that's what she does. Alright, so we are done with this string. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of cut it a little longer. As you can see, these are very open, so there's not really anything to hide it in. Except for each little crevice. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next one. It's partially attached because of the last one, but we're going to fully attach it now to another spot. We're going to fill in all the little gaps underneath here. Once this is done and ready to be attached to the bigger project that I'm working on, which is probably really obvious. Oh no, I lost one. Really obvious at this point what it is. where it needs to be. I will actually put a little bit of stuffing in each of these just to kind of help it hold its shape while it's in place there. And this one, due to how it is designed, should have a nice texture to it. And this particular project makes use of an interesting stitch. I believe it is the bullion stitch. Which is very similar to like a treble crochet because you wrap your yarn, you yarn over several times for the stitch. But then it's kind of like a really long half double crochet because you pull through all of them before you yarn over again. Start the next one. It's really fascinating to me. All the different stitches. All right, so this string staying where it's at. This one is kind of in the middle here, so let's untangle that and work with that one. All right. This one has a lot of different points that it's going to be attached to. It's kind of in the middle here. Kind of already attached to a couple of points. It's already attached over here, so we're just going to fill in this little gap here. Get it nice and stable, and then we can remove that pin, I think. Maybe. Some of these pins are also attaching at multiple points and might be vital. I don't know. I don't remember. So since it's already attached up here, we're going to go ahead and reattach it. I'm going to move my camera a little bit. You guys can see what I'm doing a little better. Since this one is all on the ground here. Not on the ground, on the table. Okay. This pin is now in the way, so it's going to go away. Alright. Now we're going to work our way over here and attach at these points here. Maybe get rid of another pin. So I do have to work very carefully with this one, just because there are so many pins in it that I don't want to hurt myself. So we'll just do a couple stitches here. We'll call that good for now on this specific string. Do our little knot, maybe. Attach from the other string, please. Thanks. There we go. And just kind of snip that one off. Alright. Now let's see about this outer one. Here's a string. Like it needs to be worked with. I don't know who this string belongs to. Let me see. Okay. Belongs to this outer one. Perfect. Let's work with that. Get this outer one attached here on this side. Get rid of this little pin because it's not really helping anymore now that I've got my first stitch done. And we're only going to do 3 stitches on this side, and then we're going to go back over and attach it to another part. So we're going to work our way back across, which does strengthen this attachment point. And we're just going to work it into this other spot here. Start working these together. All right. We are probably going to go ahead and call it good for this video. I'm going to finish this little stitch here. I don't want to go over an hour. That seems a bit excessive. So if you like the video, go ahead and hit that like button for me and subscribe if you want more of these videos from me. If you have some feedback for me, go ahead and put it in the comments below. I'd be happy to read those. And I will see you guys next time.